Have you ever thought about what first brought you to church? I grew up in the church, but at some point, we all make a decision that brings us to church for the first time. Or it's a decision that brings us back to church after a long absence. So what drew you here to Rouzie's Chapel? Was it because this was the church that your family attended? Was it because someone invited you here? Or was it you felt something missing in your life and you were trying to fill a void? And what keeps you coming here? Is it family obligation? Is it the outstanding sermons? Is it the music? Or is it because of the body of believers that surround you? That Christian fellowship and service that we share together. You know, one of the big questions in church circles today is what brings people to church, particularly young people. I was reading several articles this week about Generation X and millennials and their relationship with the church. Now, just so that we have a baseline, Generation X are those born between 1965 and 1984. And the millennials are born from 1982 to 2004. One of the defining marks of these two generations is their desire, their passion to be involved in affecting a positive change in the world. And it's believed that the decreasing number of young adults found in churches today is because when the Generation X and the millennials look at churches, what they see is a bunch of people who are just pew warmers. When in reality, they want to see people fully living out the values of Christ and Christianity in the world. A United Methodist bishop put it this way at one time. These young people want to see people who are living out Christianity, not just practicing Christianity. If we look at it from Paul's perspective, that we heard moments ago, we would say that the young adults are hungry to see the body of Christ at work and to get involved themselves. We should all be hungry to see the body of Christ at work. But even more than that, we should be anxious to be at work for ourselves, to put our God-given talents to work in our community and the world. The church is a place where together we learn to be God's people, worshiping God and serving God by reflecting God's image in the world. Now, the Bible uses many analogies for the church. And Paul himself even refers to the church in many different ways. A building, a temple, a field, just to name a few. But this passage, in Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, we hear probably Paul's most famous analogy for the church, the body. Certainly, the church is more than what is alluded to through the images of the body. But nevertheless, it is an extremely important thought that Paul puts before us, especially when we consider that Paul was using this analogy when there were problems of disunity in the church. So the church is called the body of Christ. Bodies can be united and strong, or they can be broken and weak. Have you ever thought what it would be like if the members of our physical bodies behaved like the members of the church's spiritual body does sometimes? Think for a moment. What if our heart said, you know, I'm stuck in a rut. All I do is beat. Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. I'm tired of it. It's time for someone else to step up and do this job. Okay, feet, it's up to you. You pump the blood. And what about if our lungs would say, we are so underappreciated around here. I don't think the other organs realize that they couldn't do their jobs without us. If we quit doing our job for a few minutes, everyone will see how valuable we are to this place. The brain thinks he's big stuff. Let him do his job without some oxygen for a while. We'll see how important he is. And then our livers could say, why do I get all of the dirty work? You think it's fun making bile? I've been in this body for so long. Do you think anyone has ever asked me to make any decisions, to pump any blood, or to perform any functions that are noticeable outside the body? Sometimes I wonder, why do I even bother? And of course, our little appendix could speak up. I just sit around and watch the rest of the organs work. Day after day, after hour, they work themselves to death. I'm just along for the ride. Why contribute when I can just sit here and have all the same nutrients that the oxygen that they get? Why get involved? I hope you guys get the idea. The point is that individual parts that make up our bodies were created specifically for a certain task for the body as a whole. The body works as a finely tuned machine when all the parts are doing what they were uniquely gifted to do. The parts of the body are not jealous of each other and do not covet each other's functions. There are no unimportant parts. Maybe the appendix. And of course, we have weaknesses, like the appendix, that can be a real pain when inflamed, which is why it's all the more important that we cultivate our spiritual gifts and serve according to our blessings from God. The gifts we each possess are not just for us. They are God's gift to the whole church through us. I don't think any of us want to be like the appendix and just be along for the ride. It's detrimental to the church and the church's work in the world when that is the case. Each one of us has gifts to offer. And you know, these gifts may change over time as we get older. As we age, our gift changes over time. We may go from being a gift of being physically active and doing to a gift of being a mentor or an encourager or inspiring others to continue their work. What I'm trying to say is that our gifts are absolutely meaningless unless we put them to use in the context of the whole body of the church. So from Paul's illustration in Corinthians, we can see that certain things ought to exist in the church, acting as the body of Christ in the world. First, to be fully united and functioning, we ought to realize that we need each other. There is no such thing as isolation in the church. We are a community in the deepest sense of the word. And we are bound by a common belief in Jesus. We are called to be his disciples, establishing his kingdom here on earth. There is no stronger or deeper bond. And yet sometimes people in the church overly absorb in a bit of the work that they are doing and think of it as a supreme importance. The result is that the greater work of Christ is forgotten. Our bond is broken. And we digress into neglecting or even criticizing others who are working in different ways according to their gifts. Each of us have a part to play. And if we're to be a healthy, viable body of Christ, we need to work together that everyone can do. You know, the Christian band Casting Crowns came out with a popular song a few years ago entitled, "If We Are the Body." It's one of my favorites. The chorus of the song goes like this: "If we are the body, why aren't his arms reaching? Why aren't his hands healing? Why aren't his words teaching? And if we are the body, why aren't his feet going? Why is his love not showing them a way?" Christ is no longer in the world, in the body. Thus, he wants a task done within the world. He has to find a person to do it. What a great call. Friends, we are those persons. We are the body of Christ at work in the world today. We all have gifts, and we all need each other. But there is so much work to be done. There are so many people to be reached who don't know Jesus. There are so many to share Christ's love with. And we are called to be Jesus to them. So let us live out our Christianity by using our gifts together. Amen.
Amen.